obviously Everest's been in the news again this year with the queues on the mountain and the issues that that's caused. I mean, as guys that are expert in that region, how would you see the balance between, you know, bringing an economic boom to the area and maybe the environmental impact on the region? You know, where would you see a balance being struck there?
Look, I think the thing is, we've got to remember that you go to Chamonix, up on Mont Blanc, there are days where it gets very busy up there. And mostly it works out okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what happened this last season on Everest, people had tried to divide up the main climbing parties over a number of days, but unexpectedly the weather on the first of those days was not good.
Yeah.
So most of them didn't go. So the second day there was twice the number of people. And look, that's really the explanation for the numbers. Yes, there are some issues with, you know, some people with insufficient experience perhaps. But look, sometimes it just happens. And I think we've got to just rely on a bit of common sense for people to try to expedite these issues, you know, maybe to leave a little earlier or spread it out over a number of days. And largely that is happening up there. Environmentally, Everest is much better off than it was. I mean, there are still slightly delicate issues in terms of the removal of human waste, which is the one that no one really wants to deal with. But really, you just got to say to people, look after your own business. And that's what people need to do. But a lot of the other trash that was left up there in the past has been cleaned up. Everest Base Camp really isn't too bad these days. It's pretty good. It's
good to hear that firsthand. So the future of mountaineering then, because you know, we wanted to just talk about that. We've talked about the history. Obviously, you're a family steeped in the history of mountaineering, and I know that on your Instagram feed you use 35mm shots, so quite traditional in some ways as well. There's a different generation coming through, almost like I would call the Red Bull generation. Alex Honnold, you know, whizzing, you know, what are the feelings there? So we've gone away from very traditional to very modern, you know. I know in the biography on the climb, Sir Edmund talked about his astonishment and luck feelings when he got to the summit. You know, they seem poles apart. You know, what are your thoughts on the future of mountaineering and climbing and where it's going?
I think it's really interesting because you're right. They're the polar opposites almost in terms of the emotions surrounding the kind of the approaches to adventure. But I think that they're both really important, and whichever way people gravitate to, I think is a fantastic thing. You know, I think getting outdoors and engaging in this kind of adventure and nature, it brings a lot of quality to your life. It brings, you know, substance and contrast, allows you to assess kind of, I guess, the luxuries that we live with so commonly nowadays. So whether it's your interests lie in kind of the adrenaline-induced, you know, massive big wall climbing, it all comes with a certain amount of the very similar process in terms of it's a mental challenge, but it's also a physical challenge. And some things like the big wall climbing of Alex Honnold comes with this great mental challenge, that fear and maintaining your focus. Whereas something like climbing Everest comes with a huge amount of like a physical challenge and stamina and just constantly over a long period of time working through that. So whether people gravitate to either side, I don't think it matters, as long as people are getting out there and enjoying that. And I think, you know, a lot of these kind of this modern side of adventure and exploration, and it's very compelling to see, you know, someone clinging onto a wall 1,000 meters above the ground. And if that gets more people outdoors, I think that's wonderful.
Even when you know how it ends, watching that film of Alex Honnold is terrifying.
Yeah.